All right, what's going on, guys? Sal here, and today I'm going to be breaking down the Week 12. Damn, it's already Week 12. We're going to be 3/4 of the way through the season after this week of the NFL season. First look lineup here on Draftkings. Going to basically just look at these salaries. First time that I'm looking at it, as I look down on my screen right now, this is the first time that I'm looking at it, seeing Tom Brady as the highest quarterback for the week. Basically just looking at players' salaries, getting an early look at the week. We have no idea what the injury news is going to be later in the week, so we're just basically assuming based on what we've seen up to this point, or what we know up to this point, at building a cash game lineup, not tournament, but a cash game lineup. So we're going to be looking for tons of targets, tons of opportunities out of the running backs, potential opportunities if we know that there's already an injury like Lamar Jackson last week. We were later in the week people were getting onto. Things like that, just building a first game or a first look lineup on DraftKings. If this is your first time here, I appreciate if you could hit that like button. Welcome to the channel. My name is Sal. I've been doing this for about a month now. Hope you enjoy it. And if you do, at the end of the video, if you enjoy it or at any point through, if you could hit that subscribe button in the bottom right corner of your screen, greatly appreciate it. Trying to get to 500 subscribers this week, and I think we should get there, only 50 away. But let's blow past that, right? Why not? And if you have been watching my videos, I'm in a new spot, basically a new backdrop, and that's because I'm home right now, and I'm going to be traveling for the holidays again on Wednesday to go to my grandparents in Brooklyn, New York. So a lot of traveling right now, but it's good to be home. So that's why the background's a little bit different. But let's get into the slate, right? We'll start each spot right now. And just for a heads up if you are new here, basically what I do is I have my Monday Night Football video out right now. I don't usually do that, but that game's just going to be absolutely incredible, like nuts. And tomorrow I'll be putting out a Thursday Night Football video, and later in the week, probably Wednesday this week because Thursday is Thanksgiving, or actually, I'm going to check right after I make this video and see if the Thursday night slates are out. I can do a first look lineup at those games, and then later in the week, so there'll be an extra video for Thanksgiving this week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, and then probably on Wednesday I'm going to do like a breakdown of the Sunday night slate, just because Thursday and Friday I'll be gone because of obviously the holiday. So there'll be a lot of videos this week, a lot of helpful videos. People have said that my picks, or not my picks, I don't like to give out picks. That's something that I don't really want to do, is give out picks. I want to give out information so you guys can make the decision yourself. But my information has been helping them, so it's awesome to see. But let's basically break down this first look lineup, right? Let's build the lineup here. So we got Brady being the most expensive on the road against the Jets. That's something that I'm not sure I really want to touch. Interesting to see that based on what Brady's done this year. Obviously, the Jets secondary can be had. Brady's had a lot of success there. But going on the road against them, not sure why he's that expensive. Again, though, he does have the weapons to do it, and the Jets are pretty buns in the secondary. But we have Andrew Luck second, who probably deserves to be second. He's going to be at home in the Dome, and I don't really care who his matchup is if he's at home in the Dome. I know it's Miami. I don't think they're that great of a secondary. Andrew Luck, he's been pretty efficient. First half of the year, he was throwing the ball a ton. Second half of the year so far, he's been throwing it a lot less, but he's been getting touchdowns just as frequently. We see literally 3 to 4 touchdowns in the majority of his games. Multiple touchdowns in every game, I think, but one. Does have the ability to get you some points on the ground. He can rush. Definitely an underrated part of his game. I think that he's viable at 6,400, but in cash, I like to pay down a little bit. I like to go 6K or below to open up some spots at the wide receiver if I go heavy or high at running back. Cam Newton viable. Again, he threw a good amount, more than we've seen him throwing the entire year, and he got in the end zone a good amount as well. He didn't get as much rushing, which is something that we don't see. His rushing ability usually cancels out his turnovers, his interceptions. He gets you 4 points. It'll cancel out both of his turnovers on the ground, which is something that we've used to see out of him for the majority of the year. Not so much the past few weeks, and it was surprising against Detroit, who can't stop the run, that they didn't try and run a little bit more, but they had their way in the passing game. DJ Moore had a huge game. I think Cam's viable at 6,200. Pittsburgh against Denver. So Big Ben has kind of been riding the ship a little bit about him being not as good on the road. Right, you can see his last 2 road games, he's been fine at over 25 points. You can see on the year, he's been fine at 24 points. He's been having a great year right now. It's an underrated season for Big Ben. He has the weapons out there now with Connor to take some pressure off of him. Connor also getting work in the passing game, helps his fantasy game as well, Big Ben. So that's interesting. I think one of the most interesting plays, now that I'm looking at it, one of the most is Jameis Winston, because we could see that the seesaw and the merry-go-round right now out there in Tampa Bay has been a guessing game, right? I played Jameis Winston the week he got benched. That cost me a spot in the Fantasy Football World Championship. Last week, a lot of people were probably on Fitzpatrick, and that cost them. I mean, if you played Jameis last week, he did pretty decent for you, right? He scored just as much as basically Eli, who was very highly owned, or higher owned than usual. This week, he gets San Francisco at home. It's a perfect spot for Jameis, right? He came in, he looked great, but it's just so risky, especially in cash, because I don't think they're going to pull this guy for Fitzpatrick a week after starting him, but it's just so risky. If he does go out there and throw 3 picks, you're basically done, right? Your lineup's done because 1, he stunk, and 2, he's going to probably get pulled. So we can see Wentz, awful game for Wentz, just odd game for Wentz, getting 3 points. Only had 1 point until really late in this game, I think. So just definitely a weird game. 3 picks for him. His accuracy just hasn't been there as of in that game, at least, and really as of late this whole season compared to last season, the last couple of games at least, noticing that. Just interesting to see that. Philip Rivers, one of the most consistent players on the year, I would say. Always throwing a decent amount of passes, always throwing efficiency on his pass attempts and getting touchdowns out of them. He has big play guys out there with both the Williams, with Keenan Allen, with Melvin Gordon. So it makes sense that he's having one of his best years, underrated, possibly MVP candidate, at least in the top like 5-7 discussion. Lamar Jackson, you got to talk about him, right? I didn't talk about him last week on First Look. It just slipped my mind. And later in the week, it just didn't seem like he was going to be that guy, right? Robert Griffin was starting. There was reports Jackson was sick. They didn't know who was going to be on the field for most of the snaps. He rushed 27 times for 117 yards. He got you 20 points, and that's with fumbling and throwing a pick, right? So he would have got you over 20 points if he doesn't do that. Throws for 150 yards. He gets the rushing bonus for 100, or he gets the rushing bonus for going over 100. He gets you an extra 3 points. It's just incredible. Now he goes up. He has an incredible matchup against Oakland. Like, how do you not play this guy if Flacco is out? And Flacco might be out. Yes, they price him up to 5,700. Oakland can't stop anybody. If he does, like, this might be the standard for Lamar Jackson. Rushing 27 times seems extreme, but getting close to that 100-yard bonus and throwing for 150 yards, if he throws one, ends up throwing one in the end zone, he's smashing for you. But now he's priced up for $1,000. So instead of having to get you 15 points to meet value, he's now going to have to get you closer to that 18 points. He's going to have to 3x his value, right? I'm not sure I want to play him there. And when we look a little bit lower, Eli, Russell, just to pick a quarterback right now to build a lineup. Baker on the road against Cincy, coming off the bye. Kind of like this at 5,500. We know Cincy has the worst passing defense in the game on a yards per play basis. That went down a little bit because Lamar Jackson didn't throw a ton on them. Kind of like Baker this week. Do I want to fall into the Baker and Jarvis Landry trap like every single week that kills us? I'm not sure, but I think that this is a good start. I'm going to go Baker with the exception that I do think Jameis is very interesting because of that offense is so incredible. Quarterbacks just get yards in that offense. He had 200 yards like basically in the second half alone. So definitely interesting with Baker. Cam Newton's always a viable option. Lamar Jackson's very interesting. But I want to go Baker right now because he's cheap. And then let's see where we can get at running back. I love to go up at running back. Last week in my cash lineup, I did Zeke and I did Barkley, who were running back 1 and 2. I did that in the first look. I always want to pay up there because they're basically you're paying for guaranteed points. We have Barkley as the most expensive, 9,100 against Philly, who does have a decent rush defense, but we saw it get kind of picked apart last night. But I do kind of see them getting right at home. Barkley just absolutely smashed in that game. Finally got some blocking support. Yes, he went up against a terrible defense, but the Bucs were actually pretty good inside the numbers, and Barkley, that's where he tore him apart, right? The Bucs, top 5 in the league in between the tackles against rush defense. When it gets to the outside, that's where they basically suck, and they can't catch. They can't stop any pass catching running back. Barkley should have had an even bigger day. This receiving yard should have been closer to like 50 and possibly a touchdown if Manning hits him. So I think Barkley's obviously in play. Melvin Gordon against Arizona at home, probably going to be a huge favorite. That's in play after they just blew a game and cost me betting-wise, but that's another story. I don't know how you blow that game. James Conner against Denver. Denver's been pretty bad all season long against the run. James Conner coming off of 2 bad games. So this is not exactly what I like to do, especially in tournaments, because Conner's a younger guy. But I like to see that a guy's been struggling for 2 games because at least in tournaments, it's going to take ownership off of him, right? And now that the game's a little bit sharper, it might not. But like last week, I played Mike Evans coming off of basically 2 games like this, basically worse. He had like 1 point one week. I like to do in tournaments, look at veterans who have had a proven track record and target them. Like target them as leverage plays if they've been struggling lately. So that would be your Mike Evans of the world. Yesterday, the highest scoring tight end was Jordan Reed. A lot of people have been targeting him all year, but like that's the strategy that I like to use. Look at proven veterans that have been struggling, not like all year long, but even like I did McCoy, who've been struggling all year. I can't even say that year long. And I think that's a good way to get an edge in tournaments because a lot of people are going to shy away from them, like Larry Fitz has been playing good the last couple of weeks, but nobody wanted to play in the first few weeks. Just target them in either new situations like a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, or if they've just been struggling and that you know that they're going to break out of it. They're not going to. Mike Evans wasn't going to suck all year, right? So things like that. I think Conner has a great matchup. David Johnson at 7,300 has a good matchup. Joe Mixon at home against Cleveland. Mixon has been like destroying every time he touches the ball, right? Like this past week was totally different. But like if you cancel out this week, every other time he's touching the ball, he's getting great like yards per usage rate. This week was obviously a little bit different. Obviously terrible. I had him in my standard league, but he does decent because he gets into the end zone. He's still a goal line back out of there. 6,800, I don't hate it. Fournette against Jacksonville. So there's a lot of good value plays here now that we get into this tier. Lindsey had a good game. You have Marlon Mack at home against Miami. He's definitely interesting. He's still getting all the work out there. He's still averaging a decent yards per attempt, and he's just getting chunks of yardage on plays. Chris Carson's a little bit cheaper this week. But where do we want to go? You know that Barkley's going to get the work. This is a cash game build. Let's throw Melvin Gordon in there. Melvin Gordon has been playing well, continues just to see 20-plus touches a week, both in the passing game and in the rushing game. Like, if he's getting 87 yards in the receiving game, he's going to have a floor like that, and he doesn't even score in this game. So let's go Gordon in there. Barkley's a little expensive based off of the fact that he's going on the road. Philly just got embarrassed. I could see Philly coming back and righting their ship. They do have a decently good pass defense, or rush defense, right? Their pass defense is terrible. Obviously, overall, they were attacked last night, exposed, but that's the Saints. They have two of the best running backs in the league. Yes, Mark Ingram is very underrated, and he's good. And their passing game is just terrible, so this could be an Eli Manning game. That can make him an interesting cash game QB. So I'm going to stay away from Barkley because I'm probably going to want to come and I'm going to go here. I was expecting him to be the most expensive player in the slate, and it makes sense. So let's say we go Gordon, we pay up for Gordon. I don't care. I don't mind CJ McCaffrey against Seattle. I want to kind of stay away from that. I do like James Conner though. Take that volume off right there. I do, however, like James Conner against Denver. Yes, he's on the road, but he's basically has a solid floor. And in cash games, he's got to get you, what, 24 points to 3x his value. And he's a very valuable guy to do that, right? I mean, his season average right now is 25 points. That's exactly what he has to do. I think they have him priced right. He has a good matchup against Denver on the road at 4 p.m., so you get to kind of hammer this game later on. Both your running backs are going to be playing at 4, so let's put him in the flex. Reason you do that is if like you're trailing, if this is like higher stakes. If it's lower stakes and you're playing at like the dollar level, it might not be that big of a deal. But if it's higher stakes and like it's the difference between a win and a loss is like $500 or something like that, put your guy in this slot so you can say, okay, you know what, I want to come off of James Conner. Or you should actually put Melvin Gordon, I believe, should be playing at 4 o'clock, right? Yeah, so Melvin Gordon's playing at 4 o'clock. Technically, you can go with Pitt because they'll be playing at 4:25. But if you put the most expensive player in your flex spot, then you have a lot more leeway. So in this situation, you put him in your flex spot. I don't know if it'll matter too much. I don't know if that many guys are priced more than James Conner. But that lets you just have more wiggle room in these games. You can get off. You can go to T.Y. Hilton. You can get off. You can go to Manny Sanders, something like that. You can go to Antonio Brown probably in that game. Yeah. Oh, no, you can't. It's a little too expensive. If you have money left over, you can go to Antonio Brown. So now I'm going to plug in a defense just to kind of literally plug in any decent defense in the cheaper range just to try and get this lineup going. Really cheap. Not too many guys I like. I mean, you can go Oakland against Baltimore if Jackson starts again. He's definitely an option to fumble the ball or throw an interception. He's going to fumble if he's running that much. He's probably going to throw an interception since he's not that good at passing. Tampa Bay against San Fran's not terrible, but Tampa Bay's defense is pretty buns. You don't want to play the defense against your quarterback. Let's just go all the way down here at 2K, right? Like, Oakland sucks, but Baltimore, if it is Lamar Jackson, I'll take my shot instead of paying up a little bit. And again, this is just to build a first look lineup to open up value at other spots. Let's get a tight end in there, and then we'll see what we can do at our other running back slot, and then we'll see what we can do at wide receiver. So tight end, I mean, David Njoku is going to be interesting. Where is he priced? He's priced decently cheap, right? He's got an excellent matchup against the Bengals. If you want to pair him, I think that makes sense. Yeah, he's been pretty down right now in this new offense. It doesn't look as great, but I think coming out of a bye, they should be able to get him back into the offense because he is a big-bodied receiver, big tight end, who can catch the ball, help out Baker. So we can track that. Gronk, probably not going to play, I saw. Ertz should bounce back. George Kittle against Tampa Bay. If you want to pay up a tight end, this is the spot to go, right? I mean, Mullins has just been targeting the man. He's been completing like every single pass to him all year long. That's been George Kittle's forte, is catching his receptions. O.J. Howard, it looked pretty nasty, his injury. He might be out. Jared Cook, not really want to play him, especially against Baltimore, unless it's an ideal situation like this past week. I thought he was a decent play. Greg Olsen, he keeps catching touchdowns, right? He just keeps catching touchdowns on basically really like limited targets. He's in play. Vance McDonald definitely in play against Denver, who's been pretty buns against the tight end overall. But even though their pass defense is middle of the pack, I would say Chris Harris Jr. obviously the exception in that defense. Evan Ingram's going to go off. So let's just go value here, right? Herman, he dropped a big ball. It didn't end up costing them. He's been priced down a little bit. Herndon, That was here, man. Herndon has been seeing decent targets. He's $2,900. He lets you open up other things. He's going up against New England. They're probably going to have to pass the ball against New England. Let's throw Herndon in there for a guy who's $2,900, unless we can find somebody cheaper at tight end, just to kind of go value, not really punt the position. Ricky Seals-Jones was $2,900 last week. He cost a lot of people, including myself. He only had 1 point. You can go Nick Vannett, who is seeing constant targets out there. And by constant targets, I just mean he's like getting work, at least in that range. Nobody really else. Maybe Jesse James is a dart throw, but nobody really else down here that I want to play. So I think that this is a decent play. I do like David Njoku. I'll mention that. Eric Ebron, obviously, everybody at this point probably knows that he's not getting as many snaps as Jack Doyle. Nothing. Like, right, he regressed right here. He had 3 touchdowns. He regresses right here to 0. Not somebody I ever want to play in cash, really, when Jack Doyle's out there. Going up to Jack Doyle now. He's getting consistent work, but at 4,100, I don't want to pay that. He basically has to get me 12 points to hit value. And yes, he can get into the end zone, but I don't want to pay that. He's a guy who can also get 100 yards in the game. Let's go Herndon. Opens up 5,800 per spot. And now the decision in cash. Like I said, I want to get full workloads. We know Connor's going to get all the work there. We know Gordon. I know Ekeler's there, but he's going to get all the work, right? He gets 20-plus touches a week. Connor's going to be getting 20-plus touches a week against Denver. I like his situation. Now, like, I could go here, and then I can find really good value and get a decent tier receiver and then finish that lineup out, right? That's like a classic build this year, at least. But we could save a lot of money since Barkley's so expensive, and I don't particularly like his matchup. I do, again, like, I think this week was a complete, like, freak week for him because he didn't get any real work in the passing game, which he hasn't gotten the past 2 weeks. But if that comes back to life, the work in the passing game, it's this every single week is his floor, 20 points, right? Obviously, we haven't seen that the last 2 weeks, so that's worrisome because I don't think he's going to do this with 2 tutties. And he's very capable of doing that, right? He's an incredible back. I'm not just sure he's going to do that on the road against Philly in a division matchup where they just got embarrassed and they're going to come out and try and, like, dismantle the Giants. McCaffrey, always a decent play because of this right here, because of the passing game. Everybody knows that. It basically gives him a floor of, like, 10 points most weeks, and if he gets in the end zone, he smashes value for you. 7,900, not sure I like it. James White, don't mind James White. I think he's too expensive with Sony Michel still playing, and I think Sony Michel is healthy, not even an injury designation. David Johnson is a guy who just continues to get work, right? He's getting all the work in the ground. He broke off like a 50-yarder, which really helped his value in this game, getting you close to 20 points. When he had 7 receptions on 9 targets, that was good, but all those were really dump-offs, right? They're not scheming him in. They're not putting him in the slot and scheming him into games, right? Game script from the receiving corps, and that kind of came back down to earth in this game. So at 7,300, I don't mind him, but it's definitely scary. I think I'm going to go in this range right here. I'm going to go with Chubb, I'm going to go with Fournette, and I'm going to go with Mixon. Now, there's no way I don't want to play Chubb in this situation, right? I think he's pretty cheap. I think he's a guy who started to get work in the passing game. It's just that we have Baker Mayfield. Do we really want to load up a total amount on the Browns? And again, we can come off that. This is just a first look, my mind racing. I want to go Chubb, right? He got a couple work in the passing game. He's going up against Cincy, who we know stinks on the ground and really in the air. They just stink all around on defense. I think that Fournette and Mixon are both viable. I think Mixon is very viable. I think he's a sneaky play this week because, again, he's not so much a veteran, but he's really not even a proven guy, I would say. But even in bad situations when his team's getting blown out, like here, or when the team literally stacks the box, Baltimore stacked the box the entire game because they said, oh, we know you only have Tyler Boyd. Let's stack the box. We'll put our best corner out there on Tyler Boyd, who's a pretty good cornerback. They have a good secondary in Baltimore. And we'll see what Andy Dalton can do. And again, 1.2 yards per carry. That's because they're stacking the box against him. I think Cleveland will be a little bit softer. They're going to be at home. So that's why kind of going Chubb scares me with a running back on the road. But again, coming off bye, we can put Chubb, Mixon, Fournette. I think they're all in that same sphere for me. I like all of them. So let's put that in there. Now we have 5,600 at each spot. You can find a cheap wide receiver and come up, a cheap value guy and come up. So let's see what we can find at value. Might not be too much. There really hasn't. Humphrey's caught a touchdown. Humphrey's just been good like this entire year, right? And they're just using him a lot more. They're using him in creative ways out of that slot. He's been solid all year. Godwin got a decent amount of work, but again, Godwin should be playing way more. Hopefully Deshaun Jackson gets out of there soon so the man can play more. I want to make sure I'm not passing anybody up. Last week I just like looked over Amari Cooper. This guy right here, I mention him every week in the first look, and it's almost like boring at this point, but he literally just puts up 10 points a week, right? This is the exception. Like, he's going to eventually score a touchdown again, and then he's going to meet value, and he's going to get you, like, 16 points. But the man literally puts up 10 points a week. So, the targets are so, like, consistent, right? Like, I almost want to just throw him in this lineup because he's going up against Oakland, who's terrible, and he's $4,400. But every single week, I feel like I consider throwing him in my lineup. And then I literally have never played Willie Snead except one time in, like, a tournament, and he got me, like, I think 10 points, which is fine. It doesn't absolutely kill you when he's only 4K. Definitely considering that. DJ Moore is still cheap after coming off a huge game. They only put his price up $400. The other thing is, like, these guys on Monday Night Football, I don't think either of them are really playing this week right now, so none of them are on the schedule, so never mind. So we don't have to worry about that. I was going to say their prices won't be adjusted yet, but that's fine. DJ Moore's cheap. Cortland Sutton's cheap against Pittsburgh. Don't love it. But yeah, we got Moore, who's cheap. We continue to have Willie Snead, who's cheap. It's just like, you can't get out of my head at this point. Funchess is getting super cheap, and that's just because Moore is better than him, right? Like, Funchess has never been a guy who could really get 100 yards. Yes, he's big around the red zone, but he just doesn't seem like a good wide receiver. DJ Moore, do we go back to the well with DJ Moore? Right? I mean, he finally got the targets, or is that just a week where Detroit kind of sucks, right? Seattle, I don't mind him. He's going to be coming back home. 4,600. Like, this is the thing. Willie Snead's going to get you 10 points at 4,400 with a ceiling of 15. Or you can go DJ Moore, who probably has, and Willie Snead's floor is probably like 7. Or you can go with DJ Moore, whose floor is literally like 1 point, but his ceiling is what he did last week, like almost 40 points or 31 points. Let's throw DJ Moore in this lineup, go back to the well with him. We have Baker, so like I don't want to stack Baker with Chubb, right? Like that's probably not good correlation. But does anybody really want to go back to this? Like, this man has crushed so many lineups, but he is stinking cheap now. He's below 6K. And I know that I said that when he went below 6,500, or last time because he was the cheapest he's been all year, right? It's 5,900. This man's too cheap, right? Like, he's had incredible matchups these last 3 out of 4 weeks. Tampa Bay, get you 25. He does well, right? Chiefs, he does pretty bad, right? He's not going to meet value at that for you. Atlanta, he just throws up an egg. And I know he came out of the game, but hurts. But let's go back to the well with Landry. And the only reason I really want to go back to the well is his price. And I think this is an outlier because he kind of got hurt and Chubb went off. Like when Chubb goes for a 92-yard touchdown, kind of hurts you as a wide receiver, takes you off the field a little bit. And then your team's probably going to run the ball a little bit more. And this, like, these targets are what I'm looking at most. Like, he's going to get consistent targets. The only thing that scares me now, you have Chubb, you have Baker, you have basically the whole Browns offense. But again, we're targeting the Cincinnati defense because it sucks. Now we're going to come here, 6,400. There's decent value in this range, right? We have Josh Gordon. You can just plug Josh Gordon right in there, who's going up against the Jets, who are pretty bad in that secondary, right? And he's just getting constant targets, and he's going to eventually start turning these into more touchdowns. Brady loves looking his way. Let's just look at what we have at wide receiver. Again, like, this is what we can do. Like, I haven't looked at value running back. If we wanted to get off Chubb and we wanted to get off this range, you can save money and go to Marlon Mack, who's literally at home and he's getting the bulk of the carries. I don't mind that either. I like that a lot, actually. Chris Carson's not a bad bet either. Guy just continues to get work, continues to get red zone work. And at $4,600, what does he need? 14.5 points for you to hit value. That's basically him just getting in the end zone. I don't mind that. So Josh Adams had a touchdown, but that's nowhere I really want to look at. But yeah, I think he's the best back in that backfield. And I think the fact that he broke his foot or whatever it was, a fracture in his foot, and made him go undrafted, was a crime. And now that the Eagles have a pretty good running back, they should just use him. See if we go Marlon Mack here. It gives us $800 more. You get into the $7,200 range, which opens up Keenan Allen, which is nice. But I kind of like Josh Gordon. Maybe this can get us off of this range, and we can go to $5,400. John Brown, Shep. I mean, this is kind of a dead zone. Definitely tournament viable at all these guys, but not really guys I want to play. Again, Philly secondary is pretty bad, so you can go Shepard with the flop lag. I played him this past week a lot. He did nothing for me. You can go Shepard with the flop lag. That might help you. But really, I don't really know. I mean, Tate's not running a ton of routes. He got targets, though, so maybe he was running a little bit more routes. I literally didn't watch the second half of that game. I just said that. I don't know why. There was no reason to watch the second half of that game. I did see the 4th down touchdown, and then Sean Payton get flipped off. That was pretty wild. I think the Saints are incredible, but they are getting a little too cocky. 4th and 7, you throw a bomb touchdown, but whatever. I think it was kind of cool. Kamara's only catch goes for like a 30-yard touchdown, just so typical. I do like Gordon. I do like Landry. I like playing Mack here, right? Like, I like Connor. I do love Melvin Gordon. Like, I think he's solid. We're already at value as we can get at defense. Value at tight end, basically as value we can get. So, yeah, I don't mind this. Like, let's go back to the wide receiver, 5,400. Too bad we couldn't get up to 55 with Manny Sanders. I don't mind that matchup because he's all over the place. He just continues to produce, like, no matter what the week is. In a bad week, he got you 10 points as a floor game. That's not going to kill you. So at 5,400, I don't know. I do like, in this situation, looking first look, I do like this because we're seeing consistent targets now. We're seeing more work in the slot, majority of the work in the slot. We're seeing him getting red zone looks. Against Carolina, I don't hate that in a game where they're probably going to have to throw the ball a little more. But the fact that Wilson doesn't throw a ton does scare me unless he's playing the Rams. So Baldwin is definitely on my radar at 10 targets. He's running more routes, so he could be on your radar against the Giants. DJ Moore, in cash, coming off of a huge game. I feel like it's a sneaky spot, but I feel like it's a stay away. If we go back to Snead, we get $1,000 more. 7,400 is not really anything I want to mess with. So we could go Snead here. And then we can come up at tight end. And if you come up at tight end, I think you can afford a decent amount of guys. You can afford Njoku. So I kind of like that. And now this is first look, so I'm probably not going to end up playing this Raiders team, right? And you're playing the Raiders against Willie Snead, which is, like, not the greatest thing to do, but he's not a running back, so it's not absolutely awful. Like, really on defenses, if they score points against you, unless they're scoring 40, like against the Eagles, that's the only way it's going to hurt you. You just want your defense to get sacks and turnovers, right? If a team's scoring 20 points, which like most score 14 and lose that bonus, then you're fine. So this is the lineup that I'm looking at. It does scare me that we're going a little Cleveland heavy, but I think against Cincinnati, that's something good that we can target early in the week. I think that James Conner and Melvin Gordon are going to get the majority of the work for their teams in pretty good matchups. And I think that Marlon Mack has been getting a lot of the work in this offense. They want to run the ball a little bit more. Again, 13 points. If he gets some passing work, that's great. At 5,500, do I love it? I don't love it. I don't hate it, though, against Miami, who has been pretty gashed on the ground. We saw Aaron Jones just tear them apart a few weeks back. We're finally going to hope that Jarvis Landry does something. We're going to hope that David Njoku comes off the edge here, or off this bye and gets back into the offense. Josh Gordon I love against the Jets. Now that I talk about this more, I think Brady is viable to be the most expensive QB on the slate because the Jets are just that bad, and he owns the Jets. I think Josh Gordon, nobody can defend him in that secondary. And Landry, we're just basically rolling the dice and saying, like, you've had so many good matchups, you're coming off the bye, maybe you got it right. Like, get that chemistry going. So, I don't hate this lineup right here. This is just a first look lineup. It's going to probably end up being nothing like what my lineup's really going to be. Before I go, though, I'll just show you this. This is called Draft Dashboard. This is looking at my slate tonight for Monday Night Football. Depending on when you're watching, this could be irrelevant. Probably will be. But, yeah, so what you can do here is just Draft Dashboard. You can just position optimize. It's really just what DraftKings does. It has your DraftKings salary, like right here. All your salaries, and you can do DraftKings or FanDuel. And then it has all your players. This is looking at the Monday night slate. If we change this to be basically next week's slate. So main slate. Now you have all of next week's slate here. Or actually, this might have been this past week. It's not on the next week yet, right? Yes. Yes, so this is basically looking at this past week's slate. And what you can do is you can just like watch list players, and once you watch those players, you can build customized lineups. It has a lot more data than the DraftKings dashboard does, so I use this when I'm like building my lineups, as well as like some other tools like Fantasy Labs, Roto Grinders. There's a link in my description for this. The guy reached out to me and he was like, "Can you talk about it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So it's $1 for like a month's use, so just cancel it after that if you don't want it. There's a link in the description. You can check it out if you want. But that's all I'll say about that. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Tonight's the Monday Night Football game between the Chiefs and the Rams. It's going to be great. So if you're watching this before that comes on, check out my Monday Night Football video, the Showdown Slate. And good luck in any contest that you play in that. And then I'll be back later in the week with some of these, the Thursday night games, basically, right? The Thanksgiving Day. It's going to be fun. Get some food, get some football, and just sit there all day. So I appreciate it. Hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the channel out. Comment below any questions you have on this week's first look lineup slate or how you did last week. That'd be awesome to hear about. My name's Sal. Best of luck. Peace.